It should have been the UFC's greatest night. Instead, it was a black eye on the whole sport. We're going to talk about it. I'm Rich, he's Nate, and we're trading blows.
The governor was here tonight. The governor went running out of the building. That's not good.
What an incredible night of fights last night, Nate. 229, top to bottom, fantastic. But what is everybody really talking about?
Well, obviously everyone's talking about the chaos that ensued after the main event, and that's really so unfortunate with all the great fights that happened. The Ferguson-Pettis fight has to be in contention for Fight of the Year. That was an amazing fight, but you're right, everyone's talking about what happened afterward. Everyone's talking about Khabib jumping out in the crowd and fighting guys in Conor's corner. Everyone's jumping about these two guys sucker punching Conor, the fights in the casino, the fights we saw on Twitter. It was this explosion of media that happened with seeing fights on Twitter at the same time as I'm watching things on TV. Seeing both those things at the same time just blew me away. But the chaos that ensued after the fight was just ridiculous. And no matter how many buys they got, they can't be happy with any of this going on. Even though they're the leading story in all of sports right now, I'm sure this is the top story in all of sports. This can't be good for them at all.
No, it's a complete black mark on the sport. I mean, it's you can't once the fighter leaves the confines of the cage and goes after cornermen or fans, he's now a criminal. I mean, now you're committing a crime. You know what I'm saying? And now
exactly now you're committing a crime. That's the best way that I could put it because now you're going after the people who are paying to see you fight.
Exactly. And now clearly, Dylan Dennis, who is no saint in this at all. I mean, let's be real. I mean, you don't do what Khabib did, but he's one of the biggest, Conor nutsack riders as there ever been. Is he skilled? Yes. Whatever. Bellator, he does okay. He's doing okay. But the bottom line is this dude wants to be Conor so bad. Okay. Talking all this shit. And you know what? You got checked too. Now, would I've liked to see Khabib maybe step to him in a different manner than in front of about 1 billion people on pay-per-view? Yeah, that's not the best idea. But I mean, he's no innocent man either. And I look back too. It's kind of like a karma thing because obviously we saw Conor get blasted 3 times by sucker punched by whoever the fuck was in the ring with him. Who knows? I don't even know if it was Khabib's group or fans or what. I mean, who knows, right? But I remember when it was another promotion, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but it was Conor's boy. He ended up beating his opponent, and then Conor rushed in, pushed the ref, and he wasn't even he was just a spectator at the sport, but it was a low-level show, and Conor was there, so you could do whatever the fuck you wanted to. Do you remember this, Nate? This happened like 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, and nothing really happened with that. Now, he was kind of involved with that team, but it's kind of like karma coming back at him. I mean, obviously, UFC 229 was way bigger than whatever that show was. But that still made national news.
But this was just so unbelievable. I mean, this seemed like Khabib's real coming out party. I mean, all eyes were on this fight. Khabib could not have looked better. He totally dominated McGregor all the way through. That third round, maybe McGregor took it, but there wasn't much going on in that round. I mean, this was all Khabib. And then after he just blows it with that, just blew it. Khabib blew it. And
he blew it. I mean,
I don't know if the UFC can get behind him now. I mean, he was next in line. He was supposed to be the guy. Where at one time it was Hughes and Liddell and St. Pierre and Anderson Silva, and this is Khabib's time. He's supposed to be that guy, but he blew it. I don't think he's going to be that guy. I don't think they can make him that guy now. I mean, like, they wanted John Jones. John Jones can't be that guy. They want Khabib, and Khabib does this. Who's going to be that guy that they're going to hang the mantle on? They don't have that guy now. They thought it was him. They thought it was Khabib.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens now because a variety of things could happen. I mean, number one, he could be suspended or stripped of the title. What was key was Conor, didn't press any charges at all in Khabib's group. So even though I was hearing that 3 to 4 guys from Khabib's camp were arrested last night, nothing happened. They were released because Conor decided not to press any charges. So in terms of that didn't happen. But you still got to contend with UFC brass, the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I mean, the people who run the MGM Grand. I mean, that's the Fertittas anyway, so that's not a big deal. But and the Nevada State Athletic Commission is going to come down hard on Khabib. And plus, think about travel visas too, Nate. First of all, his dad couldn't get a travel visa to even come see the fight as he normally does for whatever reason. And now travel visas, his team. I mean, maybe Khabib, but what about his team? They're not going to be able to travel with him to these shows.
I read somewhere that the Nevada State Athletic Commission was going to hold Khabib's pay pending this investigation. Dana said that could affect Khabib's, that incident last night could affect his visa status in the future. I mean, like, he may not be able to fight in the country again for legal status.
Well, I think eventually he'll be able to. But yeah, man, I mean, he could be looking at a year's suspension, something like that. I mean, like, it's going to be, unfortunately, it sucks because you have a situation where here's a guy 29-0 now and undefeated. And like you were saying, he could have been, his era is coming up. And not to say his era can never happen, but this was the coming out party for this guy. He had all those troubles making weight in previous fights, all the bullshit last time with Conor and the fucking Dolly and Alaya Quinta out of nowhere and all this shit. Now he's finally ready to rock at the top end of an amazing show, top to bottom. Nobody was sleeping going into that main event, as you see sometimes. You know what I'm saying? All the previous fights before that were fan-fucking-tastic. Everyone was going crazy. And he makes, honestly, great card, and that was a great fight. It's going to be crazy to see what happens next.
This actually made me think of the parachutist in the fight Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield on November 6, 1993. So that was when the guy flew in there. There was also the one with Mike Tyson, when Mike Tyson bit Holyfield, and there was a bit of a riot after that. Tyson actually came out and Tyson actually got out there and said that this is worse than his riot than the fight that he created. He
did say that. I remember reading that. But it's right. It mixed martial arts standpoint. I remember the shoot day box guys getting involved with shit. If you remember, we were talking about it last week with Rampage Vanderlei's rivalry.
Yeah, we've seen that. It wasn't quite like this, though. I mean, this was just straight up street fighting, and this is stuff that spilled over into the casinos afterward. Where you have
this was first
people there just hanging out, and then these guys come in and these guys are brawling, and there were quite a few videos. I saw 4 or 5 videos that were completely different situations, not the same thing from different angles, like two like different fights. It was just ridiculous.
But let's get to the heart of the matter, bro. Let's that aside. Let's see how it plays out. We'll probably end up talking about it again next week about the ramifications. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens, but the fight itself, too much wrestling, Nate. Too much wrestling for Khabib. Really had Conor's number on that, and it's just what I feared. He had superior wrestler. Wrestling bears at 9 years old, as the cliche says at this point, right? But he had him, man. He had no answer. I mean, he wasn't doing much. When I say not doing much, he clearly had top control, controlling Conor all first round. Second round, Conor showed some takedown defense in a nice way, but eventually he got down. And he was kind of hip riding him the whole time. Not really doing a lot of damage per se, but he's clearly winning the rounds. And then, it all changed third round. It just got crazier.
Yeah. Khabib seemingly dominated all the way through. He went for the takedown early, which surprised me a little bit. I thought he was going to stand up a little bit with him just to try to show that he doesn't have to take it down. But he didn't even try any of that. He went right for the takedown. He got it. He had that really good leg triangle that he trapped Conor's legs with, because that Conor was active on his back there, where he had his back up against the cage. He really wanted to get up, but he couldn't move. And Khabib just kind of held him out in like a war of attrition with that, and eventually got control. It's what Khabib always does. I mean, it was as good as Khabib ever looked to. His technique, his patience, his timing, where he changed position. It was just brilliant what he was doing.
Obviously this move of trapping the legs in like a almost half guard situation where the guy's legs are almost crossed over. It
was almost like a body triangle on his legs.
Yeah. And that's the mark of a craftsman right there, because not only is he getting that position, it wasn't a fluke that his legs were crossed over and he's sitting on his ankles pretty much, or on his knees. He's getting them in that a lot. And Khabib's done that. And I feel like Conor wasn't ready. But, in a grappling standpoint, you really got to find your way out of that before you're in it. Because once you're in that position, and especially if you don't have the kind of pedigree, as Khabib does, you're fucked, man. I mean, you're kind of, you have to make sure you don't get in that, not get in it. At that point, it's a tough situation. And Conor didn't want to explode and risk giving up his back or burning a lot of energy trying to get out of that position. He was content to kind of just letting the guy ride him and giving up the round But what really surprised me was when Khabib gave him that hellacious right hand, almost dropped him right there in the third round, Nate.
Yeah,
I mean,
did.
it wasn't like this was all grappling. I don't think Conor respect that power until he got one. He didn't respect it, Nate.
Not. Didn't seem it at all. That seemed to catch him totally off guard. That was some of the best. Those were some of the best exchanges right through the whole fight. When Conor seemed a little sleepy for a second, and Khabib came in to throw the dukes, and Conor was ready for it, and they scrapped really well there for 3 or 4 exchanges. They were really good. I thought somebody was going to get hit a little bit harder in those exchanges, but it didn't happen. But I was kind of hoping they would keep that up a little bit, but obviously Khabib didn't want to do that with him, nor should he really, and he didn't have to, because Khabib was able to take the fight where he wanted it, and he did.
Well, Conor is a fantastic counterpuncher. I mean, that goes without saying. So when you get in a situation where now, 100%, but his one of his major strengths is his counterpunching, his counter striking, and when a guy's bearing on him like that, obviously he got his bell rung. He wasn't out. He was definitely got rocked. He got his bell rung, but he was still in enough to make it a fight, and that was probably Conor's round. I would give the third round to Conor despite that blow, but that's it, man. I thought maybe the plan was, let Khabib almost get tired out. Like I'm going to take him into the later rounds and see what he got.
That did seem to be the plan. I mean, because he did dump so much energy in the second round, Khabib did, and there was a few moments there where you couldn't tell if Conor's really hurt or if he's like just turtling, trying to almost like rope-a-dope him in a way. And you couldn't really tell there for a second. And then in the third round, you almost thought, wow, this is brilliant. Khabib, because Khabib did start to look a little tired there.
Yeah.
I mean, he had his hands on his hips. He was breathing heavy, slouched a little bit. Well, Conor seemed to be getting those wings, like Boss always talked about. When you're fighting, you're tired, then you see them tired, and it gives you wings. And Conor seemed to be getting some of that. So the tide seemed to start to turn a little bit there in the third round. But then in the fourth round, Khabib just, got him down again, took care of his business, and just did it. They had said that was a rear naked choke was the official ruling, but I thought that was more of a neck crank. It looked more like he had his neck cranked there as opposed to a choke.
Well, he had a choke. He just didn't have it under the chin. It was a rear naked choke. He just didn't have you can get a guy clearly if you have a good enough squeeze, but he had more of the chin than under the neck. But that when you're talking about Khabib being tired in the third, that leads me to my other question. Do you think the fight should have been stopped in the second when Khabib had on top of him, raining down the ground and pound? And obviously they're going to let it go a bit, being Conor and Khabib. But do you think it should have been stopped right there?
I did not think that should have been stopped right there, because Conor was always defending himself, and there were a few moments there where it was pretty heavy, where it was seemingly kind of close. But I didn't think that it should have been stopped. But I mean, I don't know. If they did, I couldn't argue against it too much. I guess it could have gone either way. But obviously, Conor wasn't all that much worse for wear. I mean, he got up and he was, a little beat up, but not as beat up as we've seen some of his other people, the other guys that Khabib has fought. Conor seemed to make him struggle more on the ground than many other guys did. Not everyone, but Khabib seemed to be really focused the whole time, really on just keeping Conor down. To someone who doesn't watch the fights that much, it may not have been the most exciting thing if they don't know what they're watching, but to see him tighten down and then just carefully and systematically just tighten down on him and just apply that pressure just reminded me of watching Couture fight back in the day, or watching Nogueira fight back in the day, where they're just moving every step of the way is calculated. They're 4 steps ahead of their opponent at all times, and it just looked like Khabib was just way ahead of what Conor was doing on the ground. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
I mean, I don't think Conor gave him much of anything on the ground. I mean, at all. I think it's a deficiency of his. I think he's been avoiding wrestlers for a reason, and now you're seeing it. I mean, yes, he took care of Mendez, and he was down in that fight and got back up. But when you got a full camp to prepare, and you're as skilled as this guy is, it's a problem for him. Bottom line.
Well, Conor said he wants a rematch, and
honest, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, bro. I don't think he should get one, though.
He should get one. I don't know if he did enough to get one.
No, he definitely didn't. He didn't do shit.
This didn't seem like a seesaw battle to me. I mean, it seemed like Conor may have been better in a round where not a lot happened. I never saw Khabib in trouble. There was never a moment where I thought Conor is probably going to win this. I thought in the third round, wow, Conor really might have something going here.
The
but I
tide
never
was
thought
changing. The tide was changing in the third. The tide
a little
was,
bit,
but
a little
yeah,
bit. But I never thought Khabib was in real trouble yet.
never. He never was trouble the whole time. KB was fucking him up. And
He
let
was
me say
never
this.
hurt. He never got hurt.
No. He never got hurt. No, you're totally right. And and listen, there probably will be a rematch, but there are too many other guys in the wings. A Ferguson putting on the performance of a lifetime to fight beforehand. Okay, in a hellacious fight. You think, and this guy hasn't been waiting for a long time. He
An
deserves
amazing
that
fight.
shit. Okay, and unless Poirier and fucking Nate Diaz ends up being one of the best fights we've ever seen, unless that happens, and that could
And
very
that could
well
happen.
be, that could happen. Unless that's what's happening there, I think you got to give it to Tony. And you know what you do? You make Conor in a number one contenders match fight one of these losers. Have him fight. When I say losers, have him fight a Showtime, or have him fight the loser of Nate Poirier, or even the winner of Nate Poirier. If you're not going to give it to fucking
Well, that's
Ferguson.
exactly what I was thinking.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking to have Conor fight Showtime. Either that, or to be honest, I don't know. I mean, like, Showtime might deserve a rematch with Tony. I mean, that was a really good fight. Tony was winning that fight, but that fight ended because of an injury. I mean,
well, Tony fucked him up.
like, who would not want to see that fight again? And to be honest, Tony took probably almost as much of a beating as Pettis, maybe just as much of a beating as Pettis.
Before we get into that amazing fight, let me just talk about the finish, about Conor and Khabib briefly. Let me just say this. Conor's a quick tapper, bro. Bottom line. The dude fucking quits right away. I mean, you saw it last night. You saw it against Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, he got rocked and he got choked out and he was tired and you gave it to him. There wasn't a lot of struggle, Nate, and he didn't have it under the neck. So you're talking about a pain tolerance. You're talking about a guy who could have struggled a bit more. The fight was probably over, okay? And obviously he doesn't want to get choked out on national TV, but you know what? You're a mixed martial art fighter. That happens. And he couldn't wait to fucking tap Nate. I mean, are you serious? Well, you see that when you see the fucking choke applied.
It did seem a little quick. I do agree.
Quick, Nate. He was looking for the fucking door. And that's amazing. I want the rematch. Yeah, maybe you do. But you created a logjam that needs to be straightened out before we start dealing with a rematch, which I'd like to see. I gave him the benefit of the doubt against Nate Diaz. Now you're seeing it again against Khabib in a move that wasn't fully applied correctly. I mean, it really wasn't. It wasn't like a situation where it's a blood choke and he's going to go out. I mean, it was like he was ready to tap as soon as he locked the hand behind his head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how tight or what kind of positioning that choke was on. I don't really know what the heck I was really looking at there, to be honest with you, because I thought it was more of a neck crank. I didn't think it was a choke. I mean,
obviously,
maybe he tapped too quick. I mean, to be honest,
he did tap too quick. Dude, it was a second. He tapped too quick.
To be honest, I don't really know, because I don't really know what the heck that choke really was.
Well, it was a rear naked choke with mostly
was
chin.
it a rear naked choke? It didn't look like a rear naked choke. I've never seen a rear naked choke where the guy's chin is over twisted all the way where he's looking to the side, where his chin is twisted all the way around. I've never seen a rear naked choke like that.
There's variations to everything. The bottom line was that intended to be a choke. That was supposed to be a choke. I don't think there was enough time for whatever that was to be applied to experience any kind of discomfort. I think as soon as Conor knew in the back of his head, I'm not getting out of this, it's a wrap. When you compare to other fighters in championship situations that go until they are done. I've seen plenty of fighters, they go until they can't go anymore. They think, if I just get out, I can definitely turn this fight around. If I can just get out. And I don't think there was much of an attempt to get out. It was, I could tap and this fight's over. Payday. That's what I think, man. And
I don't think he's saying I can tap, this is over, payday. I mean, give me a break. I mean, he's not saying that.
Yes, he is. He got fucked up for 4 rounds. The guy's
getting beat up. Yeah. Well, the guy's beat up. The guy's tired. The guy has this neck crank on him. I mean, the guy tapped out from a neck crank. He's not the first guy to tap out from a neck crank. I mean, like that's a submission.
He's not the first guy. No, he's not the first guy.
What's he supposed to do if he gets an armbar? Let him break his arms. A championship fight. Break my arm. Well, I mean, the guy's a neck crank. What's he supposed to do? Break my neck?
Try to get out. Do something. Maybe give me 4 seconds of struggle before
you get out. I mean, like, you don't think he's trying to get out?
No, he didn't try to get out. That's what the fuck I'm trying to tell you.
I think he did try to get out,
bro.
I think he lost.
No, he definitely lost. He lost.
I think he got beat up, got neck cranked, and lost in convincing, embarrassing fashion. I don't think he's like, I don't think he's looking for the first submission attempt to say, here's, you're trying to tap me out. Here I am for the taking because I'm tired. Like, I don't think he's quitting like that.
I don't think he's giving him his neck to go out. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is that he was put in a submission hold. There wasn't much after that. And what I mean by that is there wasn't any kind of attempt or a bucking or explosion or looking for the hands or anything. It was, let me put my hand on your wrist for a second. Oh, it's up, done. I mean, what I'm saying to you right now in a sentence was a longer time period than that choke was on. In a championship fight, yes, he's getting beat up. Yes, he's losing. I just didn't like that. I didn't like it with Nate. And when the Nate Diaz choke, I don't like it with this one. Getting into the rest of the card, okay? And obviously, we can talk about Conor and Khabib for 3 hours if we want to, right? But
right.
Obviously, Ferguson Pettis, Fight of the Year candidate, Nate. Holy shit!
Yeah, it was amazing. It was everything that we wanted it to be. I didn't know what I was really going to get out of Pettis because I just kind of never really know. I thought if Pettis was at his very best that he could beat Ferguson, and I thought he was going to beat Ferguson there for a little bit. Man, that was a really good fight. A lot of action, a lot of devilishly bloody smiles, a lot of bad intentions in that ring.
The no moss in the ring. I mean, how did Duke Rufus find out about the broken hand? Did Anthony mention it to him? Did he see it? He must have seen his hand probably all jacked out. Probably. I'm not really sure.
That's what I think it was. They asked him about it, and he told them. I guess I don't really know for sure, but because by the time the camera got over there, the corner had already known. The corner knew.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe they assumed something was wrong, and then they just confirmed it, like it's broken, isn't it? And then he confirmed it. I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing.
I just think though, props to Duke Rufus. I mean, you're talking about one of the top coaches in the game.
You got to stop the fight there. No matter how
protect your fighter.
You have to. You have to. And someone might say, Pettis shouldn't have told him. No, Pettis made the right decision there. Pettis has to look out for his career, look out for his health, come back and live to fight another day. He can take a loss. He had a great fight. That's why I thought maybe he deserves a rematch. But, let Ferguson let Ferguson go fight Khabib. Let Pettis fight someone else. Let Pettis fight Conor. Who doesn't want to see that? Everybody wants to see Pettis fight Conor.
Any combination of these 6 fighters would be excellent. And the only reason why I don't disagree, the Pettis the Pettis Tony Ferguson situation was immaculate. And in any other circumstance, I'd say, yeah, let's run it back. But Ferguson has an unfinished business above him. Wherever, you know what I'm saying? He needs to get that done one way or another, and he definitely deserves it. But yeah, if you put Pettis up against a Conor, a Poirier, a Nate Diaz, oh my God. I mean, even this Ferguson rematch, maybe you get a Ferguson rematch for the belt. Who knows how it's going to go down? This is very, very exciting. The top of this lightweight division is the best sport's ever been. I mean, it's really, really great.
And it's really the best division in the sport right now. Like, this is the best action in the entire sport. Better than
145.
Better than light heavyweight. 145 is also really good.
Yeah.
But this group of fighters is really where the nucleus of the sport is right now.
I mean, this was the light heavyweight division in UFC in the SCG era. This was the Pride heavyweight division at that time period. I mean, this is like cream of the crop situation. Like, if you're the king of 155, you're pretty much the pound for pound king. I mean, you have a hard argument not to say that. I mean, it's a lot of top sharks out there.
Well, that's what's really hard about this whole situation is that Khabib seems like the best, but is the UFC going to, pour their resources into him, promote him as the face of the organization? I don't think they want to now. I don't think they really want to do that with him.
Well, I mean, you have to see what the legal ramifications are, but yeah, I mean, you have he's a big star.
But despite the legal ramifications, I mean, like, he might be a bit of a liability. I mean, a loose cannon. I mean, the guy jumps over the cage to fight people after he wins. I mean, not to say he'll do that again. I doubt we'll ever see him do that again. But what if he did it again?
I think about all those times, like remember that when the Pistons went up in the stands and beat the crap out of those fans. I mean, that was like a game-changing situation. But I mean, I want to keep going back to this because I mean, obviously
that was a Ron Artest.
So with Ferguson and Pettis, though, just to get back to that kind of and kind of finish that up really quick. Ferguson and Pettis, I mean, it was the best Tony Ferguson's ever looked in my mind. I mean, like, he may have come back definitely too early with the knee. He had a little problem with the knee. He got jacked up with some
Pettis
leg
was hurting him with that.
Right, and he was kind of hobbling around, and I'm like, oh fuck, man, he came back too early.
See, that's why
exploiting it. Oh,
I still think Pettis might deserve a rematch with him. Pettis was hurting him, and I want to know what kind of injury Ferguson has. Did Ferguson have a broken jaw after that fight? Because he was bleeding out of his mouth more than I've seen anyone bleed in a long time.
I think it wasn't his mouth. It was a cut behind Anthony's head and a cut
on the side of
his head.
I saw that too, but Ferguson was also bleeding out of his mouth a lot.
I thought it was blood. I thought they were saying that, but then if you looked at it, it was when they were kind of clenched up and Anthony was kind of on top of him, and he ended up like leaning back and like sticking his tongue out and going bananas. I think the blood was kind of raining down on his mouth area.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. He was sticking his tongue out.
It's crazy. No, listen, Pettis and Ferguson, if they run it back, I wouldn't be too. I wouldn't. But the fact of the matter is, there's too many. The logjam is just too crazy. They have to figure it out first.
I agree.
And it's not like Pettis lost any stock here, even with this loss, clearly. So
you're right.
You know what I mean? In fact, I think it really puts Pettis back in the limelight. I mean, he's been on a little bit of a run, like we were saying last week. He had fight of the night against whatchamacallit. I mean, he beat Chisia, and he got a fight of the night against Poirier the fight beforehand. This is clearly fight of the night last night. This is fight of the year candidate.
Yeah.
So I mean, his stock hasn't gone down. He's back to being the Showtime on the Wheaties box, and he could be a contender for that title mid 2019. Just to round out the rest of the card and go over it a little bit. Dominic Reyes against OSP, it was the coming out party that we thought, but strangely they made it a decision win. OSP got knocked.
Was that a knockout? Like, I thought OSP got knocked out.
OSP got knocked out, dude. He got saved by the bell, essentially. Dan Miragliotta, who is one of the fucking worst refs in MMA, that guy's trash. Okay,
he is terrible.
He's terrible.
One of the things that he does really bad, and one of the reasons why I'm so glad that he didn't do the Conor Khabib card,
is
that he breaks up wrestlers in the standing clinch way too often. There are lots of fights that you can go back and look at, and whenever the wrestler's pushing the striker into the cage, trying to get position on him, Miragliotta has a really quick trigger to break that up. And there are quite a few fights, like some Woodley fights where that happens, and some other ones.
They wouldn't let Miragliotta touch the Khabib Conor fight with a 50-foot pole. You're holding it, impaling. You know what I mean? Get out of here. That guy's. The fact of the matter is, he got blasted. I mean, first of all, it was Dominic Reyes from Jump Street anyway. I mean, OSP didn't have much all game plan, but Reyes was putting it on him. OSP being a tough guy, handled it, but he got laid the fuck out. And then the bell rings, and he's waving him off as if like, the fight's over, guys. And my man's standing there like he won. You know what I'm saying? He gave him the Mark Hunt walk off. He gave him the Mark Hunt walk off, son. And he's like, clearly he got rocked. And then decision. Like, I mean, why are we even talking about fight scorecards? I mean, what an embarrassing logistical error that happened. You know what I mean? Dan, it's embarrassing.
It was stupid.
That should
be.
It
was stupid. And I mean, like, you're right. This was Reyes' like coming out party. I mean, he had lots of different looks for OSP, and OSP seemed well prepared, but he didn't really have an answer for any of the things that Reyes was doing, that Reyes was throwing at him. And he worked the kicks. He has some really nice elbows. And yeah, I mean, that was a knockout. Why was it a decision?
This guy is an up and coming superstar. Nate, 10-0. 10 finishes. I mean,
great.
This is not going to be a finish on his record, as sure as hell is. You know what I mean? Real ones know. This was a finish, too. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
And 10-0, 9 knockouts, now 10 knockouts pretty much. I mean, this guy is a beast. And previous to that, as we mentioned, it's all been first rounds pretty much. Now he's showing he can go in deep waters with an athlete like Ovince St. Preux. This guy's going into the top 10 after this. He's going into the top 10. I can't wait to see what's next for him.
Yeah.
So talking about the next one, brother, this was
that Derek Lewis?
Well, Black Beast, Derek Lewis, and Volkov.
This is the most ridiculous thing the most ridiculous thing of the night. I mean, that's why I don't think this was fight of the night, but this is the only other thing that could have possibly been fight of the night because it was just that shocking. It was shock and awe.
Dude, this guy had nothing, and he looked like I mean, obviously he's got back problems. Obviously he's got cardio issues. You know what I mean? Volkov did everything he was supposed to do, all fight, to the point where
Volkov was just had him right at bay, kicking him in the gut, kicking him right where
it was actually a pretty boring fight.
Dominating him.
Yeah, it was actually
it was pretty boring.
It wasn't a whole lot of action, and it kind of reminded me of Ngannou Lewis in a way. This was actually a better fight, clearly with the finish.
Yeah, it was better,
but.
It was better before the finish, though.
No,
because
it was.
Volkov was keeping busy. He just wasn't landing significant strikes. He was compiling strikes, getting volume of strikes, but he wasn't really doing anything exciting. Just, basically front kicking him. That teak kick was like a jab, and he was like giving him the kicks to the belly, the kicks to the liver area too.
Oh, dude. And let me tell you, I'll be honest with you. I went up and got a beer. Like, this fight's over. We're winding down 20 more seconds. Nothing's happening. Let me go get a beer really quick. I don't turn the corner of my house when it's like, I mean, and that was a hellacious knockout. He almost took his head right off his shoulders. That's the kind of power that Black Beast has. Incredible, dude.
Yeah, it was incredible.
But yeah.
It wasn't what I thought was going to happen, obviously. I mean, like, no one did.
No one did.
Nobody thought it was going to happen.
But I tell you, Black Beast, he's hit his ceiling here, bro. I mean, what is he really going to do? DC would annihilate him. Curtis Blades annihilates him. Any of these dudes that can actually wrestle in any monicum, have any kind of condition in any monicum, we're going to destroy him. I mean, like, right now he's number 1, number 2 heavyweight. He already said he's like, you want to fight DC? He's like, hell no, I'm not fighting DC. I'm not ready for that. And he's not ready for that. Like, DC makes short work of this dude. I mean, he's funny. He's got big power, likable guy. I don't think he goes much further in this. I mean,
I don't think he's a real contender, to be honest with you.
He's not. He's done this, and he's where he's at, not by a fluke. I mean, he's beat some big people. But
no,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with having him around. Yeah. Like, I want to see him fight, keep him around, have him fight some people. I like to see him fight some cans. I want to see people get beat up too.
But,
that was one good thing about Pride. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say about Derek, I mean, he's not fighting for the title. He's not going to anyway with whatever's going on with DC and Brock and possibly John Jones and all that. But being number 1, number 2, he's number 2 in the heavyweight division. He's probably going to move up now. Who is he going to fight? I would say, Curtis Blades or maybe even Stipe. And that's the guys above him. He's not going to fight below him at this point. I mean, he's won 3 in a row. You know what I mean? Or 2 in a row.
Right.
And like, you know what I mean?
So even get a shot.
Yeah, he probably will get a shot, and it'll be great promo, all that. And he's great on the mic, as you know. So it'll be fun, but this is it for him. I think I think this is as high as he's going to go. In terms of rankings. We'll still enjoy fights from Black Beast, but I think this is it for him in terms of that.
And that's fine, because one thing that I liked about Pride that I like to see the UFC do more is have fights where you have the champ fighting someone who isn't that great in a non-title contention fight on like an undercard. How we would see Fedor fighting someone who has no chance of winning, and it's not for the belt, but it's just for fun. I mean, it's just for us to see, just for spectacle. Because seeing the Black Beast fight someone who isn't very good, I like to see the Black Beast fight. I don't think he's going to beat anybody better than Volkov. Like, I think he beat the best guy he's ever going to beat in his last 2 fights with Ngannou and Volkov. But, like, I still want to see him fight.
Yeah, no, he's
kind of like what Gary Goodrich was for Pride for a while, how he was like a gatekeeper in a way. How, you want to come and fight in Pride, these are the guys you got to fight. Even if you aren't going to become the champion, this is the level of competition. Like, keep these guys around, have them fight fights that don't really mean much on the undercards, and just keep it, entertaining, because it is entertaining to see Lewis fight.
Michelle Waterson, in a more exciting fight than I thought, but, handled her business, got the decision win over Herring, did an excellent job, puts herself in the title contention. And what I liked about this on a side note...
She was impressive. Go ahead.
Herring is a good wrestler, and Waterson's more of the striker, clearly, but she's rounded out her game. And what I like about this, I never thought of this, she wants to be the first champion that's actually a mom. And that's unique. And that's really cool. Good for her. Go for it. You know what I mean? I think that's awesome. Really cool. And let me just say, too, as we just finish up our 229 talk, going into the prelims really quick, I want to point out a couple things, man. And if you guys turned on the pay-per-view at 10 o'clock just to check the boys out, you missed some crazy fights. Let me tell you right now, this Vicente Luque at welterweight.
Oh, yeah, that was nuts.
Oh, my God. Now, this kid, Jalen Turner, as they were saying, came in on short notice, and he apparently is a big lightweight prospect, and he's going back down. And cool, man. You know, I don't know much about the kid. I mean, that's I'm only going off what Joe said and everything during the thing. But this Luque, oh, my God. Turner hit him with a reverse elbow, and he didn't have time to really set back up, and he's like, no, son, it's a wrap. And just grabbed him by the back of the neck and just blew him out. It was crazy, dude. Power for days from this guy. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, once he started landing with that power, it was just over. I mean, it was over really fast.
Dude, this guy's explosive. He's a big-time prospect, Nate. I want to see what's up with him. In a Division II at 170, we talked about 55 and 45 being good. 70's not too shabby either.
It is good.
You know?
It is good. Now that they say that Till is moving up to 185, which I think is going to be great for him.
Yep.
You know, that makes room for some people because, you know, Till's a top competitor. And to be honest, I thought he was going to beat Woodley. But Woodley put the beating on him. I mean, that was one of Woodley's shining moments right there, for sure.
Definitely.
But, yeah, I mean, 170 does have some great fighters. I can't wait to see this guy get in there more, to see what was the name of Luque?
Yeah, Vicente Luque, and we're going to have to keep an eye on him. But the other one I just want to point out really quick, okay? And I'm telling you, this could be a fight of the year candidate, too. And I'm not even lying to you. Like, this was a lot of fun. Was on the early.
Was that the Gray Maynard fight?
Maynard versus Nick Lentz. Nobody in the building.
Lentz.
Nobody in the building. Okay, great. I mean, is there a guy tougher than Gray Maynard? I mean, this guy is the Terminator, dude. And he had something for him. Nick Lentz put it on him like you've never seen. And then Nick Gray just gets up, keeps coming at him. I mean, they went back and forth in an exciting fight. And he fucked up Gray Maynard, dude. I mean, he destroyed him. It was an amazing, fun fight. And it's just a shame that 5 people were in the building to watch it. You know what I'm saying? Nobody watching.
I saw somebody on Facebook and check us out on Facebook at Trading Blows Podcast. On Facebook said, "Who's Gray Maynard?" And people like roasted him, like saying, you know, go check him out. You know, fighting Frankie Edgar, go learn something, noob.
I mean, yeah,
whatever. But
Gray Maynard,
you know,
Frankie Edgar.
People don't even know who Gray Maynard is anymore. And like 5 years ago, he was one of the top guys in the world.
For him, Gray Maynard
just goes to show you how fast the sport moves.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years ago, would you say what? 5 years ago, those fights with Frankie were 5-6 years ago.
Yes, longer than that, I think, man.
Yeah.
But
probably longer than that now.
But yeah, I mean, well, Gray,
but still, I mean, people don't even know who he is now.
Yeah. It's insane. But, you know, Gray really and Frankie, one of the great rivalries. I mean, that was just an amazing trilogy of fights. Really put Frankie on the map after that. I mean, Frankie was a superstar after those fights. I mean, amazing. Man, moving on, we're going to get to the news. News of the day, news of the week. And Machida issued a challenge to Mousasi for the Bellator belt. That's after, of course, Machida fights Rafael Carvalho in December. Which, you know, they're really building that stable in Bellator, man. I think it's a good idea. That'd be an awesome fight to see.
That would be awesome. He beat Mousasi, I think, about 4 years ago. He beat him in a decision, I believe.
Yeah, in fact, there's a lot of bad blood there, and you're totally right about that, Nate, because since then, that was when Machida was under suspicion of juicing, and that's one of the many targets.
Who was under suspicion then?
Machida. He was juicing, or he was under some USADA investigation or something like that at that time. And basically, he's been a big target of Gerard's, you know, since then. You know, if he even said when he won his last fight, he was like, yo, Machida isn't juicing, he can come fight me next. I mean, he's straight up like, he's constantly sniping at him for it. So it's going to build to something. So hopefully, and he should, Machida gets it done in December, and we see a nice fight, you know, early 19 with these guys. That'd be something to look forward to.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Dana White talking that we might see DC versus Bones at heavyweight, which would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And that seems like that's where those guys want to be anyway. I mean, that's where they seem like, I think they'll perform at their best at those weights. That remains to be seen. But I think Jones at least will be better at heavyweight because he's so fast. I mean, he's faster than those 205 guys. He's going to be way faster than the heavyweights.
Bones is one of those guys. First, we're going to see what his premier fight's going to be, whether it's against Gustafsson or another matchup. But he's clearly going for 205 first. DC still got to fight Brock, and that's really up to DC. I mean, I think DC wants to get this big payday and ride off in the sunset, which he has, every right to, of course. But
I can see that happening.
But
sure.
Darren Till moves to middleweight, as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast. But that's clearly big man, had a hard time making the cut. Middleweight's good for him, man. He's going to be a force up there.
He will be a force up there. I thought he was going to beat Woodley, like I said. That didn't happen, obviously. Woodley was very convincing in that fight. Took it right to him. But, Till's still learning. He's still not really young, but younger. I'm not sure exactly how old he is. How old is he, Rich? Do you know how old he is?
Darren Till, young kid.
Find that.
Early 20s.
Like 25 or so.
Bottom line is he's a young kid on a he got a whole career ahead of him. So, I mean, these guys move up in weight as you get older for sure. And 185 could be his home, and a lot of great fights from up there. So that's going to be very exciting. So, Nate, our UFC 230 main event has been set. And it's a fantastic matchup, Nate. It's a fantastic one. It's not Poirier versus Nate Diaz, a 165 new weight class. It's not some super fight. It's Valentina Shevchenko, not against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, but Sarah Eubanks. Sarah Eubanks. Let's see here. Let's get her actual name. I think it's pronounced Sarah or Syra. Sijara. I have to pronounce and spell her name on a UFC MMA podcast because I have no idea who this person is. No offense to her. And I don't think anybody does, including Joe Rogan.
No offense, but I don't even know who Sijara Eubanks is. And I'm the commentator for the UFC.
I think this is a great opportunity for these two to make a name for themselves. I know it's been just getting roasted online. I've seen numerous tweets and articles saying how terrible it's going to be, but I think it should be great. I mean, well, no, I'm tempering my expectations, but I think it's a great opportunity for these two to go out there and give us a great show.
You got Poirier and Nate. What's the deal? I mean, why can't that be the co-main and you have Poirier and Nate go 5 rounds? Why not? I mean, who wouldn't want to see 5 rounds of that? I mean, but I would rather see that, much like anybody else. But
exactly.
So my boy, and I love this kid, I do. Max Holloway, the blessed one. He got over that whatever happened with him, and I'm glad he's feeling better with the weight cut and the passing out and whatever happened with him. Looks like he's back on the mend and good to go, man, because he's going up against T-City, Brian Ortega, 231. The match is finally happening in December, and this is going to be a great fight, dude. I mean, T-City, what a great matchup. Both these guys. I can't wait for this one.
It should be fantastic. I mean, Brian Ortega, he is one of the premier fighters in the sport, one of the premier guys on the come. Both of these guys have a lot to prove, a lot they want to show, a lot that they both want to have their names be the number one guy.
Oh, I can't wait for it. I made it pretty clear, previous podcasts, and you'll probably hear me later on. Brandon Schaub, the hybrid, I never liked the guy. Thought he was overrated. I think he gets a lot of money and a lot of popularity now because Joe Rogan's his boy. But what I got to say, though, and I'll say it on record here, you hear it about Ray Borg's little son, and he's a newborn baby. He's had a lot of medical problems. He's pretty much been stuck in the hospital. I follow Bray on Twitter, and, he has to deal with that whole situation. And as fathers, you and I, you know what I mean? It's just a heartbreaking story. What the little guy's going through. And Brandon stepped up, and to his credit, and I give him all the props in the world. No jokes, no nothing. He's going to pay for all Ray Borg's bills. I mean, he has the means. Ray doesn't.
That's amazing.
And he's going to take care of him. So I think that's an awesome thing, man. I mean, like, props to the dude. And you know what? And you know what? Shame on.
Good for him.
Good for him. And you know what? It's a class move.
Yeah, that's an amazing move. I wish more people with the resources would step up and do things like that more often. I mean, we see crowdfunding things all the time online. We all know people whose families are going through struggles, and to see someone step up and help those people out is just incredible.
Next week, we have the Final Four of the Bellator Grand Prix Heavyweight Tournament. And, we want to break it down for you. We want to give you our take on those fights and some of the co-mains. And we're going to start with the Friday co-main event between your boy and my boy, Big Country Roy Nelson, against Sergey Karatanov, who I have always lovingly called Guile, because he actually known as the paratrooper with his paratrooper hat on. But I always thought
Guile from Street Fighter.
Guile from Street Fighter. He always came out with the fatigues back in the day and the hat and everything.
He was awesome.
Karatanov,
yeah, in his early Pride days was awesome. One of my favorite Pride fighters back in like 2003, 2004. Fantastic fighter. I like both of these guys. I like their styles. They like to mix it up. I think Karatanov is probably historically a better fighter. Roy Nelson has always seemed like Big John Studd from the old school WWF days. I guess I've always kind of had a hard time taking Roy Nelson really seriously just because of the way he looks.
He's had big wins.
He's had big wins. And I should take him seriously because he is a pretty good fighter.
He's had big wins.
And
he has some big wins.
He does. And he's a game competitor. He likes to mix it up. He's my kind of fighter. He goes in there. He wants to fight. He wants to get after it. So I should give him more credit than I just instinctually give him, I guess. But I think Karatanov is going to win this fight because I think Karatanov is still quicker. I think Karatanov still has better endurance. Karatanov is older. He's seen better days long before these days. But I still think he's still better. I still think he's better than Nelson. I think he decisions him in a fight that may not be the most memorable, but hopefully I'll enjoy every bit of it.
Well, these guys have similar records, but I think Roy has been in with better talent, at least as of recently. I mean, we can't deny Sergey's run with Pride, but Roy also has been a natural heavyweight, where Sergey was a smaller fighter for his career. But Roy's the older fighter. He's 42 versus Sergey's 38. Roy's been on a downslope. He's lost 3 out of his last 5. He's 1-1 in Bellator. His last loss was to Mitrione in the first round of the tournament that is finishing up that night. Not finishing up, but continuing that night. And whereas Sergey, he goes on these regional Russian circuits. He's been on. Last time he fought Joey Beltran, UFC veteran, and a Russian cage fighting championship. Beat him at heavyweight. He's on a 4-fight win streak, but who is he really fighting at the M1 Challenge? You know what I'm saying? It's not. He's not. The level of comp isn't there, and he's a name to guys like you and I. But layman guys who just got started, they don't know who Sergey Karatanov is. Unfortunately, and you should go seek him out. Go on your Fight Pass, search him up, and go watch his Pride fights, and you'll find to be an excellent, underrated fighter. That's no question about it. Roy and Sergey share an opponent, actually, if you want to do a little MMA math. Have Ayula. Roy won the fight, and Sergey lost to Have in 2016, and it was a contender of best knockout of 2016 at the time. So he got blasted out of the ring, and Roy handled him. What does that really mean? It's hard to look at that and really make a decision on the fight, but they do share an opponent. I think this is Roy's time. I think Roy's a bigger fighter. I think he's better on the ground despite the big belly. I think he works the big belly in kind of that situation, and he needs to make a run here. This is it. I think this is Roy's last ride. This could be Sergey's last ride. You know what I mean? And I like Roy KO second round against Sergey Karatanov. I do. I just think
Roy KO second round.
I do.
That'd be exciting.
I do. I think so.
For anybody who wants to go back, and you should go back and take a look at some of Karatanov's older fights. Here are a few that you should check out. Check out his fight against Murilo Ninja Hua at Pride Total Elimination 2004. His fight against Semi Schilt at Critical Countdown 2004.
Oh man!
And the Pedro, remember that fight against Semi Schilt? That one, you are watching that one with like your hands over your eyes, watching it through your fingers, watching that fight. And the Pedro Rizzo fight from Critical Countdown 2005. Those ones are all good ones, and the Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira fight.
So moving on to the main event of that night, which is one of the quarterfinal matches, is Matt Mitrione, 40 years old, 13-5, against Ryan Bader, 25-5, 35. Typically a 205-pound fighter, been fighting a lot in light heavyweight, and that's kind of kind of the deal with this this heavyweight Grand Prix. They brought in some 205ers to kind of move up. Chael Sonnens, Ryan Bader's, Mo Lawal. They brought some guys in that were typically your light heavyweights, and they put him in a heavyweight.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy here, and Mitrione's not a small heavyweight either. No. He's a good sized guy. He's a former football player. Was he a professional football player or is he a college player?
He was an offensive lineman from Minnesota. Not from Minnesota. He was an offensive lineman. I can tell you that. I know he's a tackle.
He beat Roy Nelson in February. Beat Fedor last year. Mm-hmm. Has some other notable wins. Gonzaga.
He's 4-0 in Bellator, and he's on a 4-fight win streak. And previous to that, his last fight with UFC, he lost. But he was on a run there, too. I mean, there was a minute there that people thought he'd be fighting for the title at UFC.
He beat Derek Lewis.
Yep. He did beat Derek Lewis. Ryan Bader's had some big-time wins over Latifi, Little Nog, Phil Davis, and then, of course, Mo Lawal in the opening round of the tournament. How do you see this one going, Nate?
I think Bader is the more skilled fighter. I think Bader is, for all intents and purposes, probably a better fighter, but he's a smaller fighter. And I don't know if his technique and skill set will work here because he's going to take down Mitrione and beat him up. That's a tough one. I don't know. Is Mitrione going to throw the dukes and catch Bader? I think Bader's a lot quicker than Mitrione. I don't think Mitrione can really tag him up like he wants. So this one has a lot of question marks for me. If I had to call it, I would say I think Bader takes him down, beats him up. I think I see Bader winning a decision.
Ryan Bader, I think he's a skilled and a contender, obviously at 205. I think he's too small, and he really shouldn't have even been in this tournament in my mind. He beat another 205er, theoretically, to get into this point for him. I think Mitrione's too big, too good with the striking. He moves very well for a big man. And, yeah, I think Bader's really a one-sided guy. He's a excellent grappler. Doesn't have great hands. He doesn't. I think Mitrione, bigger man, can put it on him, and I think he will. I think Matt KOs him rather easily in the first round, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see that happening. That is a very likely conclusion. So that remains to be seen.
We're going to move on to the co-main event on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's Henderson and Sadawad. I think Sadawad can certainly knock him out, but I think Benson Henderson is probably going to take him down, wrestle him down, ground and pound him, grind him out, probably submit him. I would say Henderson submission second or third round.
Benson's submission in the second.
Second.
Well, Benson Henderson, since signing over to Bellator, hasn't really been doing that great. I mean, surprisingly enough.
No, he hasn't.
2-3 in Bellator. 2-3 in Bellator right now. But it's not like Sadawad. I mean, he beat his biggest win was probably with Roger Huerta back in March of 2018. Benson has faced better competition when you look at, even though he's only 2-3, he's obviously faced the cream of the crop in Bellator. Whereas, he lost to Michael Chandler. He went 1-for-1 with Patricky Pitbull. So he's fought some big time guys where Saad, is kind of lacking. I mean, he just beat Ryan Couture in June. He's a name because of his dad more than him. I mean, let's be real about it. And no offense to him. But he's been with Bellator since 2013. He's really like a Bellator company man at this point. And I think for me, I don't know. I just think Benson's not going to do enough, man. I think I see a striking match, competitive, and I see Saad ultimately taking a decision. That's how I see it. So let's go on to the big one, kid. The Last Emperor, Fedor Emelianenko against Chael, the American Gangster, Sonnen.
I can't stand Chael Sonnen.
I can't stand him either, dude. I hate him. I'll be honest with you. He's record today. Nate, I cannot stand this guy. And you would think a guy like me, if you knew me, I love the guys that talk shit on the mic. And he's pretty good on the mic, I guess. I think he's more like...
He's a smart guy.
Very smart. But, and you know what?
He just seems like someone that if he were my neighbor, we wouldn't be friends.
You would think...
That's what he seems like.
This guy...
He's, because a lot of these guys, and like back in the day, Rich, you and I met a lot of these guys. Like I met Tito,
right,
Horn, Liddell, Couture, Randleman, a lot of these guys, and they all seemed really cool.
Really cool.
Guys who like I would hang out with if if it were like that. I wouldn't want to hang out with Chael Sonnen. Like, he seems like a total jerk. He seems like someone who just seems so arrogant and doesn't know half of what he thinks he knows, isn't half as good as he thinks he is, even though he is pretty good. I mean, overall, like, he's not a chump, but he's not half as good as he thinks he is. But he kind of reminds me of Michael Bisping a little bit. Annoying, not half as good as he thinks he is, kind of like that, I guess.
I think Bisping is a way superior fighter than Chael Sonnen in my mind. I agree with what you're saying, though. I can see the comparison.
Probably better, but I think they're about. I don't know.
No.
Maybe
was
better, but not a lot better.
Bisping was a world champion. Chael Sonnen was 30 seconds away.
No, he was. I mean,
that's all there's to it. But it's not really about that.
He was 30 seconds away.
30 seconds away. That's his biggest moment of his life. But Sonnen, you think, a guy I could dig on. He was, Team Quest staple. Big time wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, all the qualities that I love about your Dan Hendersons, your Randy Couture's. These guys. Matt Lindland. I mean, these guys. I love those kind of guys. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But I just cannot. This
and
guy.
Hang on a second. 30 seconds away, meaning against Anderson Silva. For those of you who want to go check that out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, man, if you don't know about that, turn off the podcast and go watch some fights. I don't know what. I'm saying 30 seconds away. That's a major moment, guys. You don't know about Anderson Silva. You may not know about Sergey Karatanov, and that's fine, guys. If you don't know about that fight, what are we doing even listening to us? I don't know. But seriously. But so anything about Chael, here's a guy. A lot of guys take shticks. Some guys are good on mics. Here's a guy that basically just copies Classy Freddie Blassie word for word. He is just whatever. I can't deal with the guy. He's not bad behind the mic. I seen him post fight with ESPN with Ariel Helwani, another guy I can't stand.
His analysis is good.
He does good analysis. He's good at that. He's good at that.
Sonnen's analysis is pretty good. He's a smart guy. He knows the sport, obviously. He would be a good trainer, I think. But the guy just, I just can't stand the guy. And I'll tell you right now, I just don't see how Sonnen could possibly win this fight. I don't see him out wrestling Fedor. I don't see him being stronger. I don't see him being faster. I don't see him knocking him out with his hands. I just don't see it, and I just don't see it happening any way around for Sonnen. Fedor, for those of you who don't completely understand, Fedor is probably undisputably number one fighter of all time. Well, he's way past his prime. Actually, obviously, he's lost.
Well, let me give you
quite a few.
Well, let me give you his last couple of fights, Nate, just so as a perspective. Since his loss to Dan Henderson, he's 6-1 in his last 7. He has wins over Frank Mir, which was huge. Jeff Monson, an older Pedro Hizo. He beat Fabiano Maldonado in Russia, and really that was a loss. If you saw that fight, he kind of got his ass kicked the whole time. But, hey, he's in Russia. It is what it is. But he killed Mir, bro. That was a return to form in the first round, Nate.
Sure. It's it's a first-minute knockout. It's impressive and everything. You wouldn't call it a lucky punch, but...
No, definitely not. It was counter left.
It was what, 45 seconds? There isn't much to see there.
All I know is, if Fedor's on his way out, it's not like Mir's done it by any means. Mir's a top contender and hit him with a nice counter left, dropped him down. I think it was a beautiful shot and showed the strengths that we've known of Fedor, the speed, the movement. He looked really fucking good in that fight, dude, and he looked really fucking good. And whereas Chael Sonnen, what has he done? Let's put in perspective. From 2013, he didn't fight at all until 2017. That's that big of a gap that he had from not fighting. Then since then, he went 2-1. He lost to Tito Ortiz. He beat Vanderlei, and we know what Vanderlei is about. And he beat Rampage, and we know what Rampage is about at this point. He's not like he's beating these guys, and they didn't look good either. It wasn't that great of fights. It really wasn't. He handled them clearly. I think we both know what we're going to say right now, but what is Nate's prediction for this one going into it?
I think Fedor submits him in the first round after some ground and pound that Sonnen doesn't want anything to do with. Fedor's going to get on top of him, beat him up a little bit, soften him up, get the arm bar. I would say that's probably going to be the first round, if not the second, but I would guess the first. I have
only for the fact that Fedor can be a little slow starting a little bit. I know that Mir kind of rushed him, and that's how that ended. But, I just feel Fedor is going to KO him in the second. It's not like Fedor isn't a good grappler or wrestler in his own mind. He's fantastic. So he's certainly a better striker than Chael. I mean, that goes without saying. Clearly more power, clearly more experience to get bigger guys. And this is a destiny situation. I mean, I think Fedor's going to KO him, and we're going to get Matt Mitrione, Fedor 2, the rematch in the Forum in January, and that's going to be fantastic. I would love to see that, and I want to see that rematch after how that went down last time.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Like last time, it just seemed like whoever got up first won that fight, and Mitrione got up.
It was like the old double KO in Tekken. You know what I mean? Two guys get hit and they fall down.
Right.
Whoever's going to get up, or like old school wrestling. And yeah, I mean, Mitrione's a little bit more athletic at that point, and he got up first, basically what happened. But he got knocked down too. He felt the power, no question. And Mitrione's not a small, easy guy to knock down. There's no doubt about that. So,
Absolutely.
100%. So I think that's it, Nate. I think that's our show. You know, we want to thank us. We're gonna break down next week. We're gonna break down the Grand Prix, and going forward, these we're gonna talk about the Grand Prix in general next week. I think that's what we're gonna be looking for. Not only the heavyweight one, we'll talk about this welterweight one that they premiered as well, and we're gonna educate some of the people that don't really know about what it means to say Grand Prix. And I hope you join us. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot.
Talk to you soon. Like we just heard, check us out on Twitter at TBMMAPod or on Instagram at Trading Blows. You can also find us on Facebook at Trading Blows Podcast. And please rate and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you're listening.